Cybersecurity expert Morgan Wright joining us tonight. Morgan, great to have you here.
Hi, Lou.
That was just a little too much arrogance for me on the part of a CEO who had screwed up massively.
145 million people have their most sensitive personal details out there. Their own cybersecurity tools failed to detect the fact that they didn't put this patch in place that by their own policy was supposed to be in place 48 hours after they sent an email out. Well, look, when you've got your most sensitive system with a major vulnerability, it should have been more than an email. It should have been a flaming arrow tied to somebody's rear end saying, get this thing fixed and I want to report back on it when it's done. But there's no accountability, at least in cybersecurity, whether it's the government or public-private sector.
Yeah, you know, it was on September 15th, Equifax announced that their CIO, Chief Information Officer, Chief Security Officer, were retiring effective immediately. Then we found out that the Richard Smith, on 2 weeks later, was retiring as well. I mean, this company has been a disaster from the moment it refused to take that patch from Apache. Is that correct? Was it Apache?
Right. It's Apache. It's called the Struts. It manages their consumer dispute database.
They sent out the warning. The security coordinator sent out the warning. There was so much notice here, and this was such a needless act of negligence on the part of Equifax.
And Mr. Smith is going to get maybe upwards of $90 million when you listen to his own testimony between stock and everything else. So, and I can't remember who the congressman was talking about, but we as the consumers are going to have to pay for things. Whether you can give me all the free products you want, but I see how your paid stuff works. Don't saddle me with your free stuff. That's probably not going to work any better, or mine my information to continue. Lou, this just goes back to there needs to be a version of Sarbanes-Oxley that treats digital protection the same way we treat financial protection. And until you get that and you start taking away these $90 million paydays from CEOs, he's being rewarded for negligence. Nowhere else do you screw up and move up, except maybe in some areas of the federal government.
Our question tonight for our audience is, and I'll ask you, should he not be subject to a massive fine and the company responsible for restitution for permitting, through its extreme negligence, a cyber attack that has taken those files of the most personal data and put it in the hands of evildoers?
You know, Lou, and then who's going to fine them? The SEC, the same ones who also had their big compromise and didn't disclose it for several months. I mean, this is just for a year. I mean, this is a messed up situation. Where else could you be allowed to steal from your bank for over a year and get away with it at the end and be allowed to retire? No, you'd be thrown in cuffs. I used to do this for a living. Put you in cuffs, take you to jail. You know, you look better in orange than you did in that business suit, but yet we're allowing people to benefit from the negligence that they've perpetrated on the American public, and it's especially damaging when it's Equifax, because like you said, Lou, it is the most sensitive details of our life. Everything you need to commit every form of identity theft, medical ID theft, putting mortgages in somebody else's name, it's all going to happen. He says, well, I can't tell if anybody's been harmed. I don't have to wait for the house to burn down to know I need to call the fire department. It just doesn't work that way.
And Facebook and Russia, I mean, Facebook turning over some documents apparently. But the bottom line is Facebook was selling ad space to Russian agents, and it turns out that is the first empirical evidence of true collusion that we've seen in the 2016 election, 2015.
And Lou, the Russians have been doing it. Look, we've done this before. We tried to influence elections in Latin America when the spread of communism was happening. But they've taken this to an art form to the point of where now Zuckerberg is saying, well, we're going to hire another 1,000 people. They said that after we started getting all these videos on Facebook Live that should have never come out. Well, we'll hire after the fact. Where is the before the fact behavior that says, we see this, we know we need to prevent it before it even happens? But now, you're right, now that it's out there, it's very hard to tell what's real and what's fake when it's been allowed to be out there so long and get integrated into all these conversations.
Morgan Wright, as always, good to have you with us.